Good evening, everyone. Pleasure to welcome you here. My name is Mark Sargent. I serve as Westmont's provost, and it really is nice to have you out this evening. Thanks for coming out and being a part of this. The college is delighted to host these lectures. It is our gift to the community and an opportunity for us to share with the larger Santa Barbara community some of the best of our faculty, and in the case tonight, some of the best of our students as well. In the past couple days, I admit I've heard a few people say that they wanted to leave the country. So I thought, I thought we would take you outside the country, at least for an evening, to the England of William Shakespeare, and to the Rome, Sicily, and Egypt of his imagination. At Westmont, we are fortunate to have two faculty members who have been committed to what we might call global Shakespeare, to the production of Shakespeare's plays around the world and in many languages. The investment of time and creativity that this has involved has won an opportunity this fall for Westmont to have the rights to show the complete spectrum of plays in The Complete Walk, which is a series of short films that you will be hearing about very shortly from our speakers. So let me introduce my two faculty colleagues. John Blondell is currently the chair of the theater department at Westmont, and he's co-founder of the Lit Moon Theater Company in Santa Barbara. Just recently, in fact, Lit Moon celebrated its 25th anniversary with the production of The Glass Menagerie. As many of you know, Lit Moon and many of the productions at Westmont are distinguished by innovative and even experimental interpretations of classic texts. John has organized a dozen World Theater Festivals in Santa Barbara, one of the reasons he has been named a local hero by the Santa Barbara Independent. And he has directed over 60 international productions in places such as China, Albania, and the Czech Republic. He has a special connection to Macedonia, where he has directed Shakespeare's Henry VI, Part 3, and it is his relationship with the artistic director of Shakespeare's Globe that made this project possible. In 2014, the Kennedy Center in Washington, D.C. awarded the Westmont production that John directed of Pirates of Penzance 3 national awards, including an award for being one of the top 3 musicals of any college and university in the United States. John's been a great colleague. I've always enjoyed dreaming and scheming with him about projects, a person that I find real inspiration with. He's going to be joined tonight by Mitchell Thomas, who is also in our theater department, who is a director and an actor. Mitchell teaches many acting courses at Westmont and performs extensively in productions around the world as well. He's worked with the National Theatre of China, with the theater in Macedonia, and of course, Lit Moon. Mitchell has been involved in numerous one-man shows and has been working on a new project on Shakespeare's sonnets, which will be performed, I think, relatively soon. And you may hear about that as well. He has been awarded the Arlen Meyer Prize for his direction of Eric N's The Saints play, and in 2013 received an Indie Award for his direction of Sophocles' play Electra in an outdoor setting on Westmont's campus. In 2012, he also had a residency at Harvard's Hellenic Studies Center and has worked with the Actors Center in New York City. I've very much enjoyed working with Mitchell and watching him perform. Appreciated his range. He can do high pathos and he can do sly, witty comedy. And I've seen him perform in Shakespeare and Chekhov and at the faculty game show night on campus. So we're glad to have him here. As part of the presentation tonight, we're also going to see a performance from one of our students, Anna Telfer. Anna is originally from Chicago, I assume maybe a Cubs fan, but most recently from San Diego. She is a junior double major in theater arts and communication studies, and she has appeared in Almost Maine, the insect comedy, numerous student projects and pieces for the Westmont Fringe Festival, and she has recently, and will soon again, play Rosalind in the Westmont production of As You Like It. So John will come first, but I invite you to welcome all three, John, Mitchell, and Anna.
Thank you so much, Mark, and good evening, and welcome to this Westmont Downtown event. This will be slightly different, a different kind of afternoon in the Westmont Downtown lecture series, in that most of those talks have been talks and have been a lecture about a certain kind of significant topic and a specialty of some of the Westmont faculty. This is slightly different. This afternoon we're going to have an opportunity to watch a lot of things, to listen to some things, and to talk about the event that we are producing and that we are promoting that is called Shakespeare at 400 Santa Barbara. And this project came about over the last year or so, and it is a festival that highlights and celebrates the work of Shakespeare, both in terms of our work in Santa Barbara and our work abroad, both in relationship to Westmont and relationship to the company that Mark alluded to, Litman Theater Company. I first of all want to thank the Westmont Foundation for this opportunity, and very much want to thank Mark Sargent for his tremendous encouragement and support and all the different kinds of leverage that he creates in order for us to be able to develop these projects. This event that happens next week over 4 days, Thursday through Saturday, the 17th of November to the 20th, is a small festival, and it involves a local and an international coalition of institutions, including Westmont, Litman Theater Company, Santa Barbara Museum of Art, the Santa Barbara Arts Commission, the Ministry of Culture from the Republic of Macedonia, the National Theatre of Macedonia from Bitola, Macedonia, and Shakespeare's Globe, London. We'll talk about the project that is coming from the Globe in just a moment. The actual events of the festival include 3 fully staged performances of As You Like It in a Westmont production, Julius Caesar in a Litman Theater Company production, Antony and Cleopatra by the Bitola National Theatre, presented in the Sunken Garden at the Santa Barbara Courthouse, an evening of new performance pieces inspired by the sonnets, presented by a combined company of American Santa Barbara actors and Macedonian actors. So there are 4 pieces, and they're both presented and performed by a mashup of actors and performers from these 2 countries. And so the international aspect of this project is very important to us and is a significant aspect of what we're doing. You could say the jewel in the crown of what we are doing, however, though, is the complete walk. And the complete walk was an event that occurred in April as part of the 400th anniversary of the death of Shakespeare, and was presented from April 23 to 24 in London. And I was able to go and see this event because I knew we were going to be able to present these films here as part of our festival. The complete walk, if you don't have one, there are programs that are in the back of the room. The Complete Walk was a brainchild of the former artistic director of the Globe, Dominic Dromgoole, and was a special event commissioned by the Globe and created by the Globe, where they developed one of Dominic's crazy ideas. And one night, I don't know how it happened, but he was probably thought, what could I do? How can I make 37 short films of Shakespeare's plays and then present them all along the Thames? And so the good thing about being Dominic is that he can just have the idea and then he hands it off to all of his producers to actually do it. But they actually did do it. And so in April 23 and 24, or prior to that time, they sent out a number of teams throughout the world to create 37 short films. We might call them explorations or impressions of the plays. The footage comes from 3 different sources. Archival performances that come from Globe shows. In some cases where they exist, some remarkable footage from British Film Institute 1920s silent movies of Shakespeare plays. Incredible. And then the really interesting dimension of this project, where they sent out teams to the locations where Shakespeare imagined the plays. So Hamlet at Kroningsberg Castle in Denmark, King Lear on the cliffs of Dover. One of the shots that you will see, Antony and Cleopatra in Egypt. So then they filmed all these, they're all about 10 minutes, and then they presented them all along the Thames and looped them. So they were playing constantly for the weekend of the 23rd and 24th. Well, as Mark mentioned, several years ago, I was fortunate enough to direct at the Globe as part of the Globe to Globe Festival in 2012. And Dominic, last fall about this time, sent me an email and said, John, I've got this crazy project that we're doing. We wonder if you might be interested. And he said, I could imagine these films up and down State Street. And well, so could I with $500,000. But so I kind of passed on it for a long time. And then I thought, well, what about Westmont? So I immediately talked to Mark, and then all of this festival came into shape and into play very quickly, because the company that I work with in Macedonia has an Antony and Cleopatra. Knew I wanted to do a Shakespeare and in the fall, so As You Like It came about. Knew that we were going to have Julius Caesar. So this festival kind of bubbled up rather quickly. So what we are going to do today is show you a little sneak peek, some of the highlights of what you might see at this festival, plus one special event. We are going to show 3 clips from the three plays that we are going to be presenting. So a clip from As You Like It, a clip from Julius Caesar, and a clip from Antony and Cleopatra from The Complete Walk. And we are also going to talk a little bit and provide some context for each of the plays, a little bit of context for the films, and then we are going to finish up our presentation with a wonderful speech from The Winter's Tale, one of Shakespeare's last plays, presented by Anna Telfer playing Hermione. And so Mitchell and I will tag team with some commentary about the material and commentary about the plays, and we'll watch the films, and then we'll have some time for a Q&A afterwards. So I'm tickled you're here, and hope that you'll tell all your friends about this, and hope that you'll come out to see some of the work that's happening next week at Westmont, at the Santa Barbara Museum of Art, and then also at the Sunken Gardens. There are, in order to create a kind of umbrella for everything that we're doing, I want to make 2 very quick comments about at least some of what holds my imagination to the work of Shakespeare. One of those is actually inspired by the way that Dominic talks about Shakespeare. And Dominic talks about Shakespeare as an artist, and of course a former actor and a playwright with a tremendous capacity and generosity, that he sees both the work of Shakespeare as a generous gift to the culture. And so that was one of the things that he did in his work at the Globe, is to globalize Shakespeare, is to bring Shakespeare to all parts of the world, and to be a major popularizing force. So I love that idea. I love the idea of the work of Shakespeare as being an example of tremendous generosity to the world. And so it's a great gift and a great privilege for us to be able to then in turn give that back to the culture and the people who come to see the plays. The other thing that's important that I am resonating with a great deal right now is that there are certain occasions in an artist's life and a stage artist's life when what you do in the theater plugs directly into life itself. And this is very much one of them when we look at the plays that we are presenting. Both As You Like It and Winter's Tale reveal a tremendous intimacy between the natural world and the social society, and the significance of the natural world in order for the health of all people. And that is something that we worked with a lot in the production of As You Like It, in trying to create an image for that, and a production that validates, that celebrates, that heightens our relationship to the natural world through this play. The other dimension that we really see happening in Julius Caesar and Antony and Cleopatra is the relationship between tyranny and freedom and growing kinds of populism, and the then seismic shifts that happen geopolitically in, of course, both Rome, right at that turning point of Western civilization with the assassination of Julius Caesar, and then everything that was going to transpire after that. So it is remarkable listening to the play and listening to a lot of the words in the play about power and liberty and freedom and, and all of the different perspectives that Shakespeare brings to that, and to be able to lean into this contemporary time and to be able to play these great works for this particular time and place. So it's one of the things that I love about Shakespeare is his tremendous elasticity, and that the things that seem very old, 400 years old, are actually very vital and very relevant and very now. So enough from me and enough looking at these wonderful vocabulary words. Going to show you the first clip from As You Like It. Very briefly, Rosalind is the banished daughter of the former Duke and has left with some friends to head into the Forest of Arden, where she is disguised as a young man. Prior to this, she has met and fallen in love with Orlando, and then they meet up in the woods, in the Forest of Arden. And of course, because it's a Shakespeare comedy, Rosalind can't give up her disguise just yet. There's lots of things she needs to learn about Orlando, and she creates a kind of wooing game where Orlando is to woo her male character, Ganymede, as if Ganymede were Rosalind. So this moment that we're going to show you is actually the scene leading up to when Rosalind, through the action, kind of divulges that she is indeed Rosalind, and Orlando realizes that she is indeed Rosalind. So this is from one of the complete walk films, As You Like It.
You're Rosalind. I take some joy to say you are, because I would be talking of her.
Well then, in her person, I say, I will not have you.
Then, in mine own person, I die.
No, Faith, die by attorney. The poor world is almost 6,000 years old, and in all this time, there was not any man died in his own person, in a love cause. Men have died from time to time, and worms have eaten them, but not for love.
I would not have my right, Rosalind, of this mind, for I protest. Her frown might kill me.
By this hand, it will not kill a fly. But come, now I will be your Rosalind in a more coming on disposition. And ask me what you will. I will grant it.
Then, love me, Rosalind.
Yes, Faith, will I. Fridays and Saturdays and all.
Wilt thou have me?
I am 20 such.
Sayest thou?
Are you not good?
I hope so.
Why then can one desire too much of a good thing? Come, sister, you shall be the priest and marry us in your hand, Orlando. What do you say, sister?
Marry her!
Rosalind.
I will.
You must say, I take thee Rosalind for wife.
I take thee, Rosalind, for wife.
I do take thee, Orlando, for my husband.
Mitchell Thomas.
Hi. The next clip we're going to watch explores the tense and destructive struggle for the future of democracy, asking questions about the corrupting nature of power, political loyalty, populist revolts, and tragic consequences for the ruling class. The drama features powerful speeches in the public arena and whispered conspiracies in back rooms and dark hallways. In the shadows of power, unlikely alliances set up a chain of events that, in rapid succession, bring down the leadership and thrust the country into a disastrous civil war. No, it's not a clip from the evening news. Though perhaps we can take some consolation that our individual and collective relationship to power and leadership has been a complicated and messy human condition since Julius Caesar's Rome and beyond. This excerpt from the Globe film's Julius Caesar features a soliloquy from Brutus in the beginning of Act 2 as he considers whether he should lead the conspirators in the murder of Julius Caesar. It's the middle of the night. He's all alone. Brutus's ancestor led an uprising in 510 BC that abolished kingship and created the Roman Republic and its model of shared governance. The Republic with liberty and justice for all. Sounds familiar. His friend and fellow senator, Cassius, has pointed out that Caesar's popularity and power is overwhelming the public and must be stopped before he is crowned and becomes dictator of Rome. Traditionally, soliloquies in Shakespeare are direct address to the audience when we have an opportunity to really see and hear what is going on in a character's head. Note how the filmmakers use direct address or the breaking of the fourth wall to allow us to be drawn into the intimacy and the argument of Brutus's private thoughts. But also we become slightly complicit in the proposed violence. We know things now that the other characters do not, and are often hiding from other characters. I would also suggest that the address that Brutus gives has a slight edge of alienation with direct address. It imbues the performance to imply that Brutus has an awareness that the other characters do not, that all the world's a stage and all the men and women merely players, and that he may be playing a massive role in a very consequential decision that alters the history of Rome and beyond. So here's Brutus.
It must be by his death. And for my part, I know no personal cause to spurn at him, but for the general, he would be crowned. How that might change his nature, there's the question. It is the bright day that brings forth the adder. And that craves weary walking. Crown him. That. And then I grant we put a sting in him, that at his will he may do danger with. The abuse of greatness is when it disjoins remorse from power and dispute truth of Caesar. I have not known that his affections swayed more than his reason, but 'tis a common proof that lowliness is young ambition's ladder, whereto the climber upward turns his face. But when he once attains the utmost round, he then unto the ladder turns his back, looks to the clouds, scorning the base degrees by which he did ascend. So Caesar may, then less he may, prevent. And since the quarrel will bear no colour for the thing he is, fashion it thus that what he is augmented would run to these and these extremities, and therefore think him as a serpent's egg, which hatched, but as its kind, grow mischievous, and kill him in the shell.
Are we all ready?
But when he attains the utmost round, he then unto the ladder turns his back, looks in the clouds, scorning the base degrees by which he did ascend. So Caesar may. Every production of Julius Caesar has some serious decisions to make about the nature of Caesar and the conspirators. Yuri Freyka's 1936 production in Prague cast Caesar as a megalomaniac fashioned in the shape of fascist leaders such as Mussolini and Hitler. Giant statues dominated the space but were cracked and in the production eventually fell to ruin. Castellucci's 1997 Italian production featured an old, fragile, and easily manipulated Caesar, causing the conspirators to wonder if indeed there was really any point in killing him. Our production of Julius Caesar was built in the USA in 2016 and will be performed tomorrow night after possibly the most vicious and surprising presidential campaign in US history. There's no getting around this. It's in the air. At the same time, Litmoon's very interested in a production that opens up the dark energies and questions of the play without trying to make something that directly manifests contemporary American politicians or contemporaries. Contemporary parallels are so evident that localizing them feels redundant. I play Mark Antony in the show, and I was personally very interested in pushing the extreme arc of the character. You might say that Mark Antony transforms into a different person during the course of this production, or perhaps it is more appropriate to say that a different dimension of his character is revealed to both himself and to the world in the unfolding of the action. Rather than playing the character in the traditional modes of a loyal soldier, revenging Caesar's unjust death, or the opportunist who takes advantage of a political opening, I was interested in his innocence and deep love of Caesar, as well as his complete corruption late in the play as he gets his first taste of blood and power. In that way, Mark Antony actually embodies Brutus's prediction in the speech from the film, and therefore think of him as a serpent's egg, which, hatched, would, as his kind, grow mischievous and kill him in the shell. An innocent creature, born from an egg, that has an encounter with power that makes his fragile human nature absolutely respond in the way that many humans respond to absolute power. With negative ratings of politicians at historic levels, it doesn't seem that most Americans are going to need to work very hard to believe in Antony's transformation. Speaking of Mark Antony,
Nice segue.
John? That's my segue.
One more word, perhaps, about the relationship between As You Like It and Julius Caesar. Both of them were written in a watershed moment for Shakespeare and one of his most important early creative periods. Both plays, As You Like It and Julius Caesar, were written in 1599. And in that year also, he wrote King Henry V, and he most likely drafted Hamlet. Also during that year, the theater that he worked for, the Lord Admiral's Man, which had been working in a theater called, of all things, the Theater, in the northern suburbs. They dismantled that theater for a variety of reasons, took it across the Thames over the winter period, and then rebuilt it on the South Bank and renamed it the Globe. So Shakespeare had his hands in a lot of pots, both in being a shareholder of that company and in being involved in the creating of a new theater, and then writing all of these amazing plays. The next play that we are going to take a look at, the very end of Antony and Cleopatra, comes from another similar creative, fervent period for Shakespeare. This play was written in 1606. In 1606, Shakespeare wrote Coriolanus, King Lear, Macbeth, and Antony and Cleopatra. Amazing. And this play, of course, is a sequel to Julius Caesar that he had written 7 years later. And Antony and Cleopatra, of course, is this terrific romantic tragedy with two magnificent characters, particularly Cleopatra, and displays some of the most glorious verse that Shakespeare wrote and that has been written for the stage. We are looking at a couple of scenes from the end of the play, and what has happened in the play is not necessarily completely depicted in the film. What happens in the play, Antony has committed suicide, he's botched his suicide, but then he dies, and so Cleopatra locks herself with her attendants in the monument in Alexandria, and she connives her way and gets away from Octavius Caesar, who of course is going to become Caesar Augustus, and who exists in Julius Caesar as Octavius Caesar. So she is with her attendants, and they go and retrieve the tools of her suicide that she stage manages at the end of the play. This clip, about a 5 or 6 minute clip, is shot in Egypt near the Red Pyramid in Giza.
Hast thou the pretty worm of knives there, that kills and pains not?
Truly.
What thinkst thou? Thou, an Egyptian puppet, shall be shown in Rome as well as I. Mechanic slaves with greasy spoons, rules, and hammers shall uplift us to the view. In their thick breaths, rank of gross diet, shall we be enclouded and forced to drink their vapour. The quick comedians extemporally shall stage us and present our Alexandrian revels. Antony shall be brought drunken forth, and I shall see some squeaking Cleopatra boy my greatness, in the posture of a whore.
I'll never see it, for I am sure my nails are stronger than mine eyes.
My resolution's placed, and I have nothing of woman in me. Now from head to foot I am marble cost. Now the fleeting moon no planet is of mine. Oh, my Iris, where thinkst thou he is now? Stands he or sits he? Or does he walk?
You think of him too much.
He is speaking now. Murmuring, where so he calls me.
Finish, good lady. The bright day is done, and we are for the dark.
Is it sin to rush into the secret house of death, ere death dare come to us?
Come, we have no friend but resolution. And the briefest end.
Yeah, good Iris. Quick. I see him rouse himself to praise my noble act. Husband, I come. Now to that name my courage prove my title. I am fire and air. My other elements I give to base a life. So have you done? Come then, and take the last warmth of my lips. Farewell, kind Iris. Long farewell. Come down, mortal wretch. With thy sharp teeth is not intrinsic of life at once untie. Poor venomous fool. Be angry and dispatch. Dost thou not see my baby at my breast, that sucks the nurse asleep?
It's really fun, actually. I haven't seen many of these either, so I'm enthralled. Winter's Tale, The Winter's Tale. As John mentioned, generally agreed Winter's Tale was written around 1609 to 1611, and first printed in the comedy section of the first folio in 1623. First recorded performance of the play was at the Globe on the 15th of May, 1611, and later that year was presented at Whitehall before King James I. Winter's Tale also contains Shakespeare's most famous and challenging stage direction, Exit Pursued by a Bear. At the time of writing, however, bear baiting was very popular, and inconclusive evidence suggests that the company may have used James I's baby polar bear cubs in the performance. I hope that's true. Though originally categorized as a comedy, scholars have often referred to the play as a tragicomedy, or also one of Shakespeare's so-called problem plays that freely moves between tone and genre in the storytelling. And though I personally find some of these categories a bit limiting, clearly The Winter's Tale presents a number of significant challenges for directors, designers, and actors. Acts 1 through 3 of The Winter's Tale live in a universe of dark psychological drama, filled with vicious jealousy, false accusations against a faithful wife, an oracle from the gods, a rejected newborn infant, and a young son dying of grief. Directors and designers must find a way to bring what feels like two separate plays into a cohesive and moving whole. Acts 4 and 5 live closer to As You Like It's Forest of Arden, with body humor, miraculous reunifications, a lost daughter being found, redemption, and restoration. Textually, The Winter's Tale, like other late plays of Shakespeare, such as Cymbeline, Tempest, is also known for its overrun verse, where the verse lines and punctuation are at odds with one another. This gives insight from Shakespeare to some of the psychology of the characters and fills the actor with a slight sense of being out of control and sometimes out of breath during significant speeches. One of the challenges of working on late plays for actors and audiences is both the tonal shifts in the material, as in Acts 1 to 3 and 4 and 5, as well as the more and more sophisticated and complicated grammar, syntax, and dramatic structure of Shakespeare's writing itself. Though we love film, we are a theater department, after all, and so we're joined today for a live performance by Anna, a Westmont junior. She's playing Rosalind in As You Like It, and she'll also be a muse at the pop-up Shakespeare at the Santa Barbara Museum of Art. Anna's currently in my acting Shakespeare class this semester and has agreed to share a speech that she's been workshopping with us today. So this is Hermione from The Winter's Tale. Read the indictment. Hermione, queen to the Lord, worthy Leontes, king of Sicilia, thou art here accused and arraigned of high treason, in committing adultery with Polixenes, king of Bohemia, and conspiring with Camillo to take away the life of our sovereign lord the king, thy royal husband. The pretense whereof being by circumstances partly laid open, thou, Hermione, contrary to the faith and allegiance of a true subject, didst counsel and aid them for their better safety to fly away by night.
Since what I am to say must be but that which contradicts my accusation, and the testimony on my part no other but what comes from myself, it shall scarce boot me to say, not guilty. Mine integrity being counted falsehood shall, as I express it, be so received. But thus, if powers divine behold our human actions, as they do, I doubt not then that innocence shall make false accusation blush and tyranny tremble at patience. You, my lord, best know who least will seem to do so. My past life hath been as continent, as chaste, as true, as I am now unhappy. Which is more than history can pattern, though devised and played to take spectators. For behold me, a fellow of the royal bed, which owe a moiety of the throne, a great king's daughter, the mother to a hopeful prince here standing to prate and talk for life and honor for who please to come and hear. For life I prize it, as I weigh grief, which I would spare. For honor, 'tis a derivative from me to mine, and only that I stand for. I appeal to your own conscience, sir. Before Polixenes came to your court, how I was in your grace, how merited to be so. Since he came with what encounter so uncurrent, I have strained to appear thus. If one jot beyond the bound of honor, or in act or will that way inclining, hardened be the hearts of all who hear me, and my nearest of kin cry fie upon my grave.
Getting to our very last clip. As I mentioned before, The Winter's Tale takes some dramatic and comedic twists and turns in the story and storytelling. The film clip we will view takes a similar approach to the cinematic storytelling, mixing a contemporary reporter looking to capture the scoop on the royal reconciliation at the end of The Winter's Tale, who gets some information from a shepherd character who seems to be from a different time and place. The film was shot on location at the Apothecaries Hall in London, which is the site of the original Blackfriars Theatre, the indoor private theatre of Shakespeare's company in the early 1600s. Interlaced with the scene, you will also see scenes from a Nigerian theatre company, the Renegade Theatre, that played The Winter's Tale at the Globe to Globe Festival at the Globe stage in 2012 in the Yoruba language.
I was by at the opening of the fable. Heard the old shepherd deliver the manner how he found it. Whereupon, with a little amazingness, who commanded out of the chamber only this. Methought I heard the shepherd say that he found the child. I make a broken delivery of the business, but the changes I perceived in the king and Camilla were very notes of admiration. They seemed almost, with staring at one another, to tear the cases of their eyes. There was speech in their dumbness, language in their very gesture. A notable passion of wonder appeared in them. But the wisest beholder, that knew no more but seeing, could not say if the importance were joy or sorrow. But in the extremity of the one, it must needs be. Oh, here comes one that happily knows some more. How goes it now? Nothing but bonfires. The oracle is fulfilled. The king's daughter is found. Such a deal of wonder is broken out within this hour that ballad makers cannot be able to express it. This news, which is called true, is so like an old tale, that which you hear, you'll swear you see. There is such unity in the proofs. The mantle of Queen Hermione's, her jewel about the neck of it, the letters of Antigonus found with it, the majesty of the creature in resemblance of the mother, the affection of nobleness which nature shows above her breeding, and many other evidences proclaim her with all certainty to be the king's daughter. Did you see the meeting of the two kings? No. Then she was a sight that was to be seen, cannot be spoken of. There might you have beheld one joy crown another, so and in such manner that it seemed sorrow wept to take leave of them, for their joy waded in tears. There was casting up of eyes, holding up of hands, our king, ready to leap out of himself for joy of his found daughter, as if that joy were now become a loss, cries, "Oh, thy mother! Thy mother!" Then asks Bohemia forgiveness, then embraces his son-in-law, then again worries he his daughter. Now he thanks the old shepherd, which stands by like a weather-bitten conduit. I never heard of such another encounter which lames report to follow it and undoes description to do it. What became of Antigonus that carried hence the child? Like an old tale, still, he was torn to pieces by a bear. One of the prettiest touches of all, and that which angled for mine eyes, caught the water though not the fish, was when at the relation of the queen's death, how attentiveness wounded his daughter, till that from one side of dollar to another she did with, and alas, I would fain say, bleed tears. For I am sure my heart wept blood. Who was most marble there changed colour. Some swooned, all sorrowed. If all the world could have seen it, the woe had been universal. Are we returned to the court? No. The princess, hearing of her mother's statue, which is in the keeping of Pauline, a piece many years in the doing by that rare Italian master, Julio Romano. He, so near Hermione, hath done Hermione, that they say one will speak to her, and stand in hope of answer. Thither, with all greediness of affection, are they gone, and there they intend to sup. Who would be thence, that has the benefit of access. Every wink of an eye, some new grace will be born.
All right, so that's the end of the official presentation. So we are going to have a few minutes of question and answer and conversation.
What's the first Shakespeare you did, John? Do you remember?
Yeah, the first Shakespeare I did was 1990 at Westmont College, A Midsummer Night's Dream. Yes?
To ask this. About a year and a half ago, I saw a program on PBS. It was about whether Shakespeare, I don't know if you're aware of this program, actually wrote the plays himself. The theory was that it was possibly somebody from the royal family might have written the plays and not Shakespeare, because, like you said yourself, he had never been to any of these places, but the detail were so incredible that only a person that actually traveled to these places would have had those details. So, and I think near the end of the show, I was about 90% convinced that it probably wasn't Shakespeare that wrote these plays at all. I forgot the name. It was somebody from the royal family. Are you aware of the?
Yeah, I think, well, Edward de Vere is one of the members who's given credit for, along with Christopher Marlowe. Yes, the authorship question is, always bubbling around the issue of Shakespeare. And my own perspective, first of all, if you're interested in it, there's a wonderful book by James Shapiro. And I think it's called Who Wrote Shakespeare, something like that. But James Shapiro is the name of the author and goes into this issue in a great amount of detail. I happen to think that indeed there was an actor in Elizabethan and then later Jacobean London named William Shakespeare who actually did write all of the plays. One of the issues that I remember from reading the book, it's a couple years ago, is the nature of and the kind of the practice of and the concept of writing autobiography in the late 19th century. Mark Twain actually was a major Shakespeare debunker. He believed that somebody else wrote the plays. And of course, Twain was a very autobiographical writer himself. Everything that he wrote was from his own life. So this idea tended to catch on in American and English literary criticism, that the only way that someone can write something is because they had that experience, which is a very different kind of understanding of the literary tradition from previous periods. So I happen to think that Shakespeare had this massive, capacious imagination that was able to hear a story on the street, to read something, and then to be able to let his imagination fill in the rest. I mean, he will write stories about Illyria and stories about Rome, and might have, of course, heard depictions, seen engravings and so forth. But in so much of his work, it is a work of geographical place plus something else, and that plus something else is always the imagination that he brings to it. So I'm interested in this question of authorship, and I'm actually completely convinced that. And also from kind of evidence in the text, and I like thinking of this is first of all an actor who wrote these plays, and so that these are, of course, and this is true for the entire Elizabethan tradition, but these are plays that are meant to be played, and the way that the kind of the logic inside, the theatrical logic inside, is actually the logic of a theater person and not some sort of closeted royal who is writing these plays and trying to keep their identity hidden. So I would recommend James Shapiro to you very much. It's a fascinating, it's a page turner if you're interested in these kinds of things. Stuart.
The other thing is The Bard of Avon. It's a play about this very issue, The Bard of Avon, which is a wonderful play. I don't remember the author.
Amy Freed.
What do you know about the project from the Oregon Shakespeare Company to write, to send out a director and a writer to rewrite each of the plays in modern English? Any progress on that you know?
All that I have just read about the project. I believe that some of them have been staged. I believe, but I don't know very much about that project. Just read a little bit of it in the Times, in the New York Times, I believe.
Can you recall or just tell us about a particular production where you've seen a student change because you're a player in that production?
Where a student changed?
Yeah, I mean, just having been a player in the production where just being a part of it.
Oh, it's that's a wonderful question. And it happens every day with us. We will find students who either might have a terrific capacity for Shakespeare and then be completely transformed and become another kind of actor because of that. That thing that catalyzes and burns differently because of the work with Shakespeare. In another case, someone who has never done Shakespeare and then is turned on by it. So it's one of the great gifts of being a teacher, and you're always watching students in ever-present states of transformation and ever-present states of growth and maturity and development. And to be able to watch our students from a first-year student, then to be able to track them through to where they are after 3 or 4 years is remarkable, and is probably one of the greatest opportunities of working in the theater that I have, is watching the students grow.
Is there one particular play that you think has more power to sort of catalyze that sort of transformation?
One Shakespeare play or
Yes.
one?
I'm going to let you answer that question.
No, I don't.
The one you're in.
I'm looking out at the audience here. Here's Elena White, who's a junior, and she's also in the acting Shakespeare class. And Elena last year played the lead in a new play called Good Day. So this wasn't Shakespeare. This was a new play written by an alumna, Diana Small, who graduated a number of years ago, who had just finished her MFA in playwriting at the UT Austin's Mishner Center. And so, smallest cast show I'd done in a number of years, and Elena played a really significant role that was somewhat autobiographical, interesting. And to spend that amount of time with Elena and other actors in the rehearsal room and working so closely and so intimately, it was a very, very challenging role. A young woman sitting on her front lawn, kind of mourning the death of her father. And then to have Diana Small come back and be in residence with us the last 2 weeks of the production and get to see not only Diana's work come to life, but also see Diana and Elena working together was really incredibly rewarding and exciting, and an example, not Shakespeare, but an example of something that was just fantastic to see, to be able to facilitate, but then also send it on its way and see what develops from there.
Would you comment on what you do when you teach acting for Shakespeare that is different when you teach acting for Tennessee Williams?
Yeah, great question. Do people like the microphone, or can I just? I'm good? Yeah. I'll kind of half use the microphone. How's that? Great question. The class is actually acting Shakespeare and clown. We're doing clowning today. So in the acting sequence, we do a lot of foundational stuff that looks at self and what you might consider psychological realism, Stanislavski-based. In Acting 2, we do a lot of devised, original, generative theater, as well as working on the physical body of the actor. In Acting 3, we take a look at what I call heightened text, as well as the nature of the clown. We focused on Shakespeare because I personally believe that working on Shakespeare gives students the tools and the facility to approach any kind of heightened text. Which could include the Greeks. It also includes Samuel Beckett and contemporary playwrights. So anything that has a kind of form to it that requires what you might consider a non-naturalistic approach technically. So we do sonnets, we do soliloquies, we do scenes, and a great deal of kind of technical work that I believe and hope that students could then apply to any sort of heightened text. So given the number of classes we have and the kind of trajectory of the acting series, we mainly focus on Shakespeare, but that's how I would respond to that. And so I think the answer is absolutely yes, that there's a pulse, there is not only the sense of the language, but also the sound and the syntax and the tools that Shakespeare puts in, like John was saying, the actor, writer puts into the text that serves the actor and carries the actor along. That's very different, I would say, than a lot of contemporary playwriting, other types of playwriting. Great question.
What do you think about speaking Shakespeare the way it was spoken? There's a university thing, an open university thing this guy does, and he reads the lines the way it would have been pronounced, and then he reads the lines where he's not pronounced. Have you guys ever tried that?
One of the things that I do on one of the first days in the acting Shakespeare class is let them know that Elizabethan English would have sounded closer to contemporary American English, and especially like West Virginian kind of hard R stuff, than the BBC, news. And so our idea of what Shakespeare is supposed to sound like actually comes from a received tradition that's entirely false. And sometimes when students audition, say for a role or for a scholarship, they do a Shakespeare and they sound kind of mid-Atlantic somewhere. They're on a boat between England and the United States. And so I really encourage them. And there was a school of thought in terms of, in England and even in the United States, of trying to get rid of people's regionalisms and native dialects. That was popular for a very long time, and I would say around the 80s into the early 90s, that went away. This idea that there was a particular way of speaking or a particular sound that comes, I think, from a different time and place. But there's no question that there's some amazing models out there from our history that we can learn from, regardless of their dialect. But I think hearing the linguists and the historians put that together is a fascinating process. I don't know that it necessarily serves a contemporary actor in their own process.
Well, thank you so much for coming. And was there one more? Please? Yeah.
A short statement.
Please. Yeah.
This past summer, I had lunch with my professor when I was a doctoral student at UCSB. His name was Harold Kirker. He's now 96. And we sat around the table doing Shakespeare quotes the whole lunch. He's 96, but still in there. Unbelievable.
That's a wonderful story.
That's great.
Thank you for coming. Please. There's information about the festival in the Santa Barbara Independent this week. Please, if you are interested, there is a flyer back here of the various events. There is the brochure and the program for the complete walk. There is information online at www.westmont.edu/Shakespeare has a lot of information about the entire festival. Thank you for coming, and hope to see you at one of these events.